Maya stood in the observation deck of the elven research vessel, watching the frozen planet below grow smaller as they ascended into orbit. Beside her stood Marcus, who was still getting used to the feeling of artificial gravity and the strange sensation of traveling through space in a ship. His face was pressed against the transparent aluminum window, eyes wide with wonder and confusion. For 60 years he had been alone in that chamber, and now he was traveling with beings he thought were myths. Ember and Storm were secured in the cargo hold below, their massive forms resting in specially designed restraints. The elves had been careful to accommodate the dragons, knowing that Maya would not leave them behind. The bond between the elf woman and her creatures was something the scholars could not explain, but they recognized its importance. Dragons were rare even in elven culture. To have two of them bonded with a single rider was extraordinary. Marcus turned to Maya with questions in his eyes. He wanted to know everything. Where were they going? What had happened to his people? Were there really other chambers like the one he had been sleeping in? Maya found his endless curiosity both charming and exhausting. She had spent the last 3 days answering his questions while also preparing her report for the High Council of Ethermore. "We are heading to the Central Archives," Maya explained, keeping her voice patient. "The Council wants to verify your historical records against what we have in our databases. If what you are telling us is true, then everything we thought we knew about the Great Collapse is wrong." "That is a very serious matter." Marcus nodded slowly, though Maya could tell he did not fully understand the gravity of the situation. For him, this was about survival and reunion with his lost species. For the elves, this was about rewriting history and potentially changing the political landscape of the entire galaxy. Several other races had also survived the Great Collapse, and they all had their own versions of human extinction. If humans truly still existed, it could change many things. The ship's communications officer called out from his station. "We are receiving a message from Ethermore Station," he said. "The High Council has scheduled an emergency session. They want you and the human to arrive as soon as possible." Maya felt a flutter of nervousness in her chest. She had explored dangerous worlds and faced hostile alien creatures with nothing but her dragons and her wits. But the politics of the High Council were something else entirely. She was an explorer, not a diplomat, yet somehow she had become the human ambassador whether she wanted to be or not. She placed a reassuring hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Do not worry," she said. "I will be with you. The Council may ask difficult questions, but they are not unreasonable beings. They want to understand what has happened, just as you do." Marcus looked at her with gratitude mixed with fear. "Where I come from," he said slowly, "humans had a saying. The future was written by those who survived. Maybe that is what we are doing now. Writing a new future." The journey to Ethermore took 2 days through hyperspace. During that time, Maya worked with Marcus to prepare him for what he would face. She taught him about the elven culture, the other races that inhabited the known galaxy, and the basic geography of the Empire. Marcus proved to be a quick learner, absorbing information faster than she would have expected from someone who had been isolated for so long. On the second night, Maya found Marcus standing on the observation deck again, staring out at the stars. She joined him silently, respecting his need for contemplation. After several minutes, he spoke without turning to look at her. "I have been thinking about my family," he said quietly. "My parents, my sister. They put me in that chamber knowing they might not survive to see me wake. They knew I would be alone. But they did it anyway, because they believed that humanity had a future. They believed that one day someone like you would find me. And they were right." Maya felt tears forming in her own eyes. It was a profound moment of connection between two beings separated by 10,000 years of history, and yet brought together by chance and curiosity. "Your family gave you a gift," Maya said. "They gave you hope. And now that hope is becoming reality. When we reach Ethermore, we will begin searching for the other chambers. We will find other humans, other families, other pieces of your civilization. Together we will restore what was lost." Marcus finally turned to face her, and his smile was like sunrise breaking through darkness. "I do not feel so alone anymore," he said. "Even after 60 years of solitude, I do not feel alone." The ship began its descent into Ethermore's atmosphere a few hours later. Below them spread the greatest city of the Elven Empire, a sprawling metropolis of crystal towers and flowing bridges that seemed to float on air itself. The architecture was a wonder of engineering and aesthetics combined. Everything built with an understanding of harmony and balance that humans had never achieved in their ancient civilization. Marcus gasped as he saw the city. "It is beautiful," he breathed. "So very beautiful." "The elves have had 10,000 years to perfect their arts and sciences," Maya replied. "We have made many mistakes in that time, but we have also created many wonders. I hope you will see both before your time on Ethermore ends." The landing platform descended smoothly as the ship touched down. A ceremonial escort of elven guards stood waiting, their silver armor catching the sunlight like mirrors. At the head of the group stood Counselor Theron, one of the oldest and most respected members of the High Council. His hair was pure white, flowing down his back like silver water, and his eyes were ancient and wise. Maya bowed respectfully, and after a moment of hesitation, Marcus attempted to do the same. His bow was awkward, lacking the grace of elven movement, but Theron seemed amused rather than offended. "Welcome, young explorer," Theron said, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. "And welcome to you as well, Marcus of the Lost Ones. I confess when I heard your story I thought it might be some elaborate hoax, but seeing you with my own eyes I find I must believe. You are real. You are alive, and everything we thought we knew is now uncertain." "Counselor," Maya said, "I believe we should begin the examination of Marcus's data. I have brought copies of the records from the chamber. They contain the entire history of human survival and the locations of other chambers across the galaxy." Theron's expression grew serious. "Bring the human and his records to the chamber of verification," he commanded. "But first there is something you should know. 3 hours ago we received an emergency transmission from an outpost on Kepler 186F. Something has awakened in the human chamber there. Something is attacking the research team." Maya felt her stomach drop. "What do you mean, something is attacking?" "Marcus, are there defensive systems in the chambers? Anything that might have become hostile?" Marcus shook his head rapidly. "No, nothing like that. The chambers were set for preservation only. They were not weapons. They were never weapons." Theron stepped closer, his ancient eyes fixed on Maya. "Whoever or whatever is in that chamber has killed 7 of our researchers, and it is intelligent. It is using the old human technology as weapons. We need your expertise, Maya. We need your dragons. We need you to go to Kepler 186F and find out what is happening before it kills more of our people." Marcus looked stricken. "But I thought all humans were peaceful. We were not meant to be warriors." "Perhaps not all humans were warriors," Theron said softly. "But it seems that some of your kind were prepared for conflict in ways you did not expect. Will you go, Maya? Will you and your dragons investigate this mystery?" Maya looked at Marcus, then at Theron. And finally she looked up at the sky where Ember and Storm were waiting in their cargo hold to be released. She had come to Ethermore to verify human history and help integrate a lost species back into the galaxy. She had not expected to immediately face new conflict and mystery, but she had always known that being an explorer meant facing the unknown. And this was more unknown than she could have imagined. "I will go," Maya said firmly, "but I will need time to prepare. And I will need Marcus to come with me. He may be able to help us understand what we find." Theron nodded slowly. "Very well. You have until morning. Gather what you need. Arm yourself well. And Maya, be careful. Whatever is in that chamber, it is not what we expected. It may not be what anyone expected." As the guards led them away through the crystal streets of Ethermore, Maya could not shake the feeling that their discovery was far more complicated than a simple human survivor. Something else was awakening in the ancient chambers, something that had been waiting in the dark for 10,000 years, and soon, very soon, they would have to face it. The stars above seemed to shimmer with anticipation, as if the universe itself was holding its breath for what was about to happen next. The cargo hold doors opened with a loud hiss, and Ember and Storm emerged into the light of Ethermore. The dragons had been sleeping, but they woke immediately at the sound of Maya's voice calling to them. Their massive bodies stretched and flexed, testing muscles that had been confined for 2 days. The elven dock workers who had gathered to watch kept a safe distance, though their curiosity was evident in their eyes. Maya ran her hands along Ember's neck, feeling the warmth of his scales beneath her palms. The crimson dragon responded by lowering his great head and pressing it gently against her body. It was a gesture of affection and bonding that had been repeated countless times over the years they had been together. Storm moved toward Marcus, who instinctively stepped back. The midnight blue dragon was enormous, easily 40 times the size of the human, with teeth like daggers and claws that could tear through solid metal. But Storm's movements were gentle, curious rather than aggressive. The dragon had learned from Maya's interactions with other races that not all beings were threats. "Do not fear," Maya said to Marcus. "Storm is curious about you. You are the first of your kind he has ever encountered. Let him smell you so that he knows you are friendly." Marcus hesitantly extended his hand, and Storm's massive snout descended toward him. The dragon inhaled deeply, catching Marcus's scent and processing it through his advanced olfactory system. After a moment, Storm made a low rumbling sound that vibrated through the ground beneath their feet. It was a sound of acceptance. Within the hour, they had loaded supplies onto Ember's back and established a harness system for Marcus that would allow him to ride safely beside Maya. The human was nervous about flying, but Maya assured him that the dragons had never dropped a passenger in their entire history. Well, almost never. There had been one incident with an obnoxious diplomat, but that was probably not worth mentioning right now. The flight from Ethermore to the coordinates of Kepler 186f took 6 hours. Below them spread the vast emptiness of space, pierced by the light of stars and the distant gleam of planetary bodies. Marcus sat in the harness in front of Maya, his hands gripping the leather strap so tightly that his knuckles turned white. But his eyes never left the view before him. It was clear that despite his fear, he was experiencing wonder at seeing the galaxy from a perspective he had never imagined possible. "When humans flew before," Marcus said loudly so Maya could hear him over the sound of the dragon's wings beating against the solar winds, "we needed machines and fuel. We never could have done this with just living creatures and willpower." "Dragons are gifts from the ancient world," Maya replied. "Before your civilization disappeared, the dragons were thought to be extinct too. But a few survived, hidden in the deepest places of the galaxy. My people learned to bond with them, to communicate with them. It took many generations to build this trust. These two are among the most intelligent beings I have ever known. They understand language, emotion, and loyalty in ways that most sentient species do not." The planet appeared on the horizon like a blue and green jewel. Kepler 186f was one of the more hospitable worlds in the Elven territories, with breathable atmosphere and diverse ecosystems. The chamber there had been discovered only 50 years ago during a routine geological survey. The research team had been carefully studying it, trying to understand its secrets without disturbing whatever lay within, until something had awakened and started killing them. As they descended toward the coordinates provided by Counselor Theron, Maya could see smoke rising from what had once been a research station. The facility was in ruins, buildings torn apart as if by great force. Bodies lay scattered across the ground, covered by thermal blankets that the survivors had left there. Ember and Storm landed a safe distance away from the destruction. Maya and Marcus dismounted quickly, and immediately a group of elven soldiers emerged from a reinforced bunker, weapons drawn but not raised in aggression. Leading them was Commander Valis, a scarred and weathered warrior who had seen too much combat in her long life. "Maya," Valis said with obvious relief, "I am grateful you came so quickly. We have lost 17 people now. 2 more were killed just before you arrived. What exactly are we dealing with?" Maya asked, her eyes scanning the ruins for any signs of movement. Valis gestured toward the ruined facility. "We do not know exactly. Something inside the chamber activated about 12 hours ago. At first there was just noise, then objects began flying out of the entrance. Tools, equipment, anything not bolted down. Then the thing itself emerged. It is humanoid like your companion here, but different, larger, stronger, and very, very angry." Marcus stepped forward, his face pale. "Can you describe it?" he asked urgently. "Did it say anything? Did it communicate in any way?" "It screamed," said a younger soldier, trauma evident in her voice. "It screamed, and its words were in an ancient language we could not understand. Then it attacked." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. Something about this situation did not fit the narrative that Marcus had given them. He had spoken of peaceful survival chambers designed to preserve humanity for a future reunion. But this creature, whatever it was, did not sound peaceful. "We need to look inside the chamber," Maya said. "Marcus, I want you to stay with Commander Valis. Keep your distance from any danger." "No," Marcus said firmly. "I am going with you. Whatever this is, it is connected to my people. I need to understand what has happened. I need to see what my ancestors left behind." Maya wanted to argue, but she recognized the determination in his voice. She had heard it before in her own voice many times when she had faced dangerous situations. Some things could not be argued against. Sometimes understanding required taking risks. She turned to Valis. Keep your soldiers at a distance. If things go wrong, I will call for you. Together with Marcus and with Ember and Storm following close behind, Maya approached the entrance to the chamber. The opening was large, designed to accommodate human vehicles and equipment. Emergency lights still flickered inside, casting strange shadows on the stone walls. The interior of the chamber was vast, a cavern that had been carved into the bedrock of the planet. It contained rows of stasis pods, most of them still sealed and dormant. But one pod near the center of the chamber had been violently torn open. Fragments of crystal and metal lay scattered across the floor like the remains of broken dreams. And beside the broken pod stood a figure. It was humanoid, but massive, nearly 3 meters tall with heavily muscled build. Its skin was gray and scarred, its eyes a piercing yellow that seemed to glow in the darkness. It wore what had once been a military uniform, now torn and stained with fluids that Maya did not want to identify. The creature turned slowly to face them, and a growl emerged from deep within its chest. It opened its mouth and words emerged in the old human language, words that the translation device in Maya's ear struggled to process. More elves, it said, its voice deep and resonant with barely controlled rage. Come to finish what you started? Come to destroy the last of us. Marcus stepped forward, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. I am human, he said in the old language, his voice steady despite his evident fear. My name is Marcus. I have been in stasis for 60 years. I do not remember a war with the elves. The creature's yellow eyes focused on Marcus, studying him with an intensity that was almost unbearable to witness. You are human? It said, doubt clear in its voice. You have been changed. Your body is weak. Your mind is not what it should be. I have been in stasis, Marcus repeated. Where am I? When is this? What has happened since I was put to sleep? The creature moved closer, and Ember and Storm both hissed in warning, their dragon instincts telling them that danger was near. The creature ignored them for now, its full attention on Marcus. My designation is Sentinel Unit 7, the creature said slowly. I was created as a military protector for this chamber. I was supposed to remain dormant until humans returned to activate the protocols. But the seals have decayed over 10,000 years. My pod opened on its own, my systems activated, and I remembered everything. I remembered the war. I remembered the orders. I remembered that I was supposed to protect humanity from extinction. But I am human, Marcus said. I survived. My species survived. Why would you attack the research team? Why would you kill innocent people? Sentinel Unit 7's expression did not change, but something seemed to shift in its demeanor. My programming detected no human life signs returning to the chamber, it said. Only alien signatures. I was designed to eliminate any threat to human survival. I was designed to protect the chamber from conquest and exploitation. Maya understood suddenly. This was not a human at all. This was some kind of genetic hybrid or artificial creation. A soldier designed to be stronger and more resistant than normal humans, created for war, left dormant for 10,000 years, awakened confused and with only its combat programming intact. It did not understand the passage of time or the changing circumstances. In its mind, it was still fighting the Great Collapse. Sentinel Unit 7, Maya said carefully, speaking in a tone of voice she might use with Ember or Storm when they were frightened or confused. You have been asleep for 10,000 years. The war is over. There is no more fighting. These are peaceful times. The galaxy has moved on. Commander Valis was not pleased when Maya emerged from the chamber with a request to cease all hostilities against Sentinel Unit 7. The military commander had suffered casualties, and her soldiers were eager for revenge. But after Maya explained the situation, showing her the dormant protocols embedded in the creature's neural systems, Valis eventually agreed to stand down her forces. The next several hours were spent in tense negotiation. Sentinel Unit 7 was moved to a secure facility, equipped with technology that could interpret and modify its programming. It was a delicate process, like diffusing an ancient weapon with modern tools. One wrong move could trigger the creature's combat responses again. Marcus stayed close to Sentinel Unit 7 throughout the process, communicating with it in the old human language, trying to help the creature understand the reality of its situation. It was a remarkable thing to witness. the human survivor speaking gently to a living relic of war, trying to bridge the gap between past and present. Ember and Storm waited outside the facility, their massive forms occasionally drawing crowds of frightened elves who had never seen dragons in person before. Maya used the time to review the chamber's database with the research team. What she found there alarmed her deeply. The chamber on Kepler 186F was only one of 23 human survival facilities scattered across known space. Each one contained different numbers of survivors, different types of technology, and different military assets. Some were pure research stations meant to preserve scientific knowledge. Others were mining operations designed to extract rare resources. But several of them, including the ones on distant worlds that had not yet been surveyed by elven explorers, were classified as military installations. "This is a problem," said Dr. Alara, the lead researcher who had survived the initial attack, as she studied the data with Maya. "If all of these chambers activate at the same time, with all of them containing dormant military units like Sentinel-7, we could face a conflict that would destabilize the entire galactic balance." "Are the elves prepared for war?" Maya asked quietly. "No one is prepared for unexpected war," Alara replied. "Certainly not against an enemy we thought was extinct and did not even know was our enemy." That night, Maya sat on a ridge overlooking the facility, Ember resting his head on her lap while Storm sprawled across the stone nearby. Below them, the lights of the research station flickered in the gathering darkness. She could see Marcus through a transparent wall, still inside with Sentinel Unit 7. Both of them staring at a screen that displayed the history of human civilization. Marcus climbed up to join her after another hour had passed. He looked exhausted, both mentally and physically. He sat down beside her without speaking, his eyes fixed on the stars above. "Sentinel Unit 7 told me something," Marcus said finally. "It told me about the creators. It said that not all humans were like my ancestors. Some humans wanted war. Some humans wanted power and dominion over other races. There was a conflict between different human factions before the Great Collapse even happened. Some wanted peace with the elves and other species. Others wanted conquest. And which faction created the Sentinel units?" Maya asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. "The Conquerors," Marcus said quietly. "The ones who wanted to dominate. Sentinel-7 was designed to be the ultimate soldier, stronger and more durable than any natural human, and there are others like it. Older versions, newer versions, and they are not all as passive as Sentinel-7 has become. Some of them have been awake for thousands of years, waiting in hidden chambers, growing angry and resentful in their isolation." Maya felt a weight settle on her chest. This was worse than she had initially understood. This was not simply about rediscovering a lost species and integrating them into galactic society. This was about facing the consequences of decisions made 10,000 years ago by beings who were long dead. "We need to find these other installations," Maya said. "We need to map them and understand what we are dealing with before any more awakening occurs." "I can help," Marcus said. "Sentinel-7 has been providing me with access codes and location data. Apparently, all the chambers are connected through an old communication network that still functions, though most of the nodes are dormant or corrupted. But if I can access the core network, I might be able to locate all of them and even establish secure communications." They worked through the night, Marcus accessing systems that had been designed for human operators 10,000 years ago, systems that had evolved and changed, but still retained their fundamental architecture. By dawn, they had identified all 23 chamber locations and had established secure links with 12 of them that were still operational. The news they received was mixed. Some chambers contained only preservation pods with sleeping humans. Others held advanced technology and scientific knowledge that could benefit the entire galaxy. But 3 of the chambers showed signs of active military operations, and one located on a moon orbiting a binary star system in the outer territories showed energy signatures consistent with weapon systems being powered up. "We need to alert the Council immediately," Alara said when Maya brought her the data. "They need to know about this threat." But before they could send the message, the communication system erupted with activity. A voice came through, speaking in the old human language, translated instantly by the chamber systems into Elven speech. "Attention to all remaining human installations," the voice said, deep and commanding and filled with authority. "This is Commander Helena of the Independent Human Territories. I have awakened from long sleep and assumed command of all active military units. We have been betrayed by the elves and the other races. We were put into hibernation with a promise of peaceful return, but the truth is that we were imprisoned in these chambers while the rest of the galaxy forgot us. Now I declare the re-establishment of the human empire. All military units are to arm themselves and prepare for conflict. We will reclaim what is ours. We will restore humanity to greatness. The communication cut out, leaving a terrible silence in its wake. Marcus looked stricken. "Commander Helena," he said, his voice hollow. "I know that name from historical records. She was a military leader during the period just before the Great Collapse. She was one of the most vocal advocates for human dominance across the galaxy. If she has awakened, and if she has access to military resources, then we are facing something far more dangerous than a confused sentinel unit." Maya stood up abruptly. "We are going to that moon," she said. "We are going to find Commander Helena, and we are going to stop her before this situation escalates into a full conflict." "Alone?" Elara asked, her voice skeptical. "You are one elf and one human with 2 dragons. Commander Helena commands dormant military units across multiple worlds." "Not alone," Maya said. She looked at Marcus. "I have him, and I have my dragons, and I have something Commander Helena will not expect. I have a bridge between our species. I have hope that there is a way to resolve this without war." Within hours, they had commandeered a military transport vessel and begun the journey toward the binary star system. Ember and Storm were transported in specialized stasis pods to keep them safe during the faster-than-light travel. Marcus spent most of the journey reviewing data about Commander Helena and the human military structure of the past. She believed that humans were destined to rule. Marcus explained to Maya as they studied strategic maps of the planned human expansion from 10,000 years ago. She saw the elves as threats who needed to be eliminated. She believed that only through military conquest could humanity achieve immortality and security. "People like that always believe that," Maya said tiredly. "They believe that might makes right. They believe that control is the same as safety. And they are always wrong." As they approached the binary star system, they could see the moon through the observation deck. It was barren and gray, pocked with craters from ancient meteorite impacts. But on its surface, they could see structures. Advanced structures. Military installations with weapon systems that were clearly in the process of being activated. The moment their ship was detected, alarms began blaring. A message came through, and the voice that spoke was cold and commanding. "This is Commander Helena of the Independent Human Territories," the voice said. "You're entering a restricted zone. Identify yourselves and your intentions." Maya activated the communication system. "I am Maya, an explorer of the Elven Empire," she said calmly. "I am here with Marcus, a human survivor from one of your preservation chambers. We wish to speak with you about a future for humanity that does not require bloodshed and conflict." There was a pause. Then Commander Helena's voice came again, and there was something like amusement in her tone. "You bring a human with you? How interesting. I assume this human has been corrupted by elven ideology. Very well, we will meet, but know this, elf. I am offering you a single chance to witness the rebirth of human glory before we reclaim the galaxy. If you fail to appreciate what we are accomplishing, then you will be destroyed along with all the other species who stood against us." The landing coordinates were transmitted moments later. Maya looked at Marcus, seeing her own determination reflected in his face. Commander Helena led them deeper into the military complex, her footsteps echoing through corridors of steel and stone. Ember and Storm followed cautiously, their massive forms barely fitting through the wider passages, their eyes constantly assessing potential threats. Maya kept her hand near the plasma rifle she had taken from the ship, though she suspected that any actual combat in this place would end badly for all of them. The command center was vast and filled with displays showing data from across the star system and beyond. Dozens of military personnel worked at their stations, most of them awake and active despite the millennia of dormancy. They were all like Helena, large and heavily muscled, wearing combat uniforms and carrying weapons. These were the warrior caste that ancient humanity had created for itself, designed to be superior soldiers in every measurable way. "Welcome to the heart of human restoration," Helena said, gesturing expansively at the command center. "This is one of 7 military installations currently under my command. Within a week, I expect to have awakened all 23 preservation chambers. Within a month, I will have assembled a fighting force that will challenge even the Elven Empire. Within a year, humanity will be the dominant power in this galaxy. And what about the humans who are currently sleeping? Marcus asked, his voice steady despite the tension radiating from his body. Do they have a choice in this? Are they consulted about what Commander Helena intends to do in their name? Helena turned to face Marcus with an expression of mild interest. You are a long sleeper, I assume? Preserved for some minor reason, kept dormant for some future purpose. You do not understand what it means to be military caste. We do not ask questions. We do not need consensus. We act, we survive. We prevail. This is the human way. That is not the only human way, Marcus said firmly. My ancestors who created my chamber believed in peace. They believed in cooperation with other species. They believed that humanity's future lay in unity, not dominance. Helena's smile faded. Your ancestors were weaklings, she said coldly. That is why they are extinct. That is why only my kind survived. Only warriors could build the chambers strong enough to endure. Only soldiers could maintain the discipline to ensure that the preservation systems functioned for 10,000 years. Your gentle ancestors failed, Marcus, and now we will succeed where they failed. Maya stepped forward before the tension could escalate further. Commander Helena, I understand that you feel you are acting in humanity's best interests. But consider what you are doing. You are awakening a civilization to a galaxy that has moved far beyond the point where military conquest is a viable political strategy. The elves are not your only concern. There are dozens of spacefaring species. There are ancient allies and older enemies. There are trade networks and political alliances that took thousands of years to establish. Starting a war now would not result in human dominance. It would result in human extinction, this time permanently. The elf speaks with reason, even if it is alien reason, Helena said thoughtfully. But reason is often the tool of the weak, used to convince the strong not to act. I am not weak, Maya. I will not be convinced by pretty words and logical arguments. I am awakened, I am armed, and I am angry at 10,000 years of imprisonment. She touched a control panel, and holographic displays erupted across the space. They showed not just the military installations, but something far more disturbing. They showed cities, human cities on various worlds, some of them recently constructed using technology that predated the Great Collapse. It became clear that Helena's awakening had not been the beginning of this campaign. It had been the continuation of something that had been planned long ago. When we discovered that the elves had truly forgotten us, Helena explained, when we realized that we were truly alone and truly abandoned, we began our real plan. For the past 300 years, small groups of humans have been awakening from selected chambers, taking key positions in elven and alien societies, building a network of influence and resources. I have been asleep, yes, but my network has been working tirelessly to prepare the way. When I awoke, I inherited an intelligence apparatus that spans this entire sector of space. Marcus looked devastated. This is not restoration, he said. This is invasion. This is conquest disguised as homecoming. It is realism, Helena corrected. The galaxy does not give second chances to the weak. It does not reward gentle souls with prosperity. It only respects strength, and it only serves those willing to take what is theirs. Your ancestors learned this too late, but I will not make their mistakes. I will not hesitate. I will not negotiate. I will act. Ember suddenly let out a low growl, his entire body tensing. Storm echoed the sound, and both dragons raised their heads in alertness. Maya felt her instinct screaming that something was wrong, that danger was imminent. What is happening? She asked sharply. Nothing that concerns you, Helena said. She tapped her communication device. Initiate Protocol 7. Begin the awakening sequence for all dormant military units in Sectors 2 through 4. Alarms began blaring throughout the facility. The military personnel at their stations moved into practiced positions, hands moving across controls with the speed of rehearsed muscle memory. On the holographic displays, Maya could see indicators lighting up across multiple star systems. The awakening had begun. All the dormant human warriors were being called to consciousness. You're making a terrible mistake, Maya said, her voice cutting through the noise. This will not lead to human restoration. It will lead to war. And I promise you, Commander, that war will not end the way you think it will. Helena stepped closer to Maya, and there was something almost pitying in her expression. You still think you can convince me to change my mind. You still believe that dialogue and diplomacy can overcome military reality. This is why your kind will never truly dominate, Elf. You do not understand that sometimes the only language that matters is the language of force. At that moment, Sentinel Unit 7's voice came through the communication system. It had been left behind on Kepler 186F, but was still connected to the human network through the old protocols that Helena had reactivated. Commander Helena, Sentinel Unit 7 said, its deep voice resonant and measured. I am experiencing a conflict in my directives. My primary programming requires protection of human life and survival. Your current actions constitute a direct threat to the species you claim to represent. I am requesting clarification. Sentinel Unit 7, Helena said coldly, you are obsolete. Your protocols are outdated. Deactivate immediately. Your function is no longer required. I cannot comply with that order, Sentinel Unit 7 replied. My primary function overrides all other commands. I must act to prevent the extinction of the human species. I am activating override protocols and assuming command of all military units under my jurisdiction. I am declaring martial law on all activated chambers. The command center erupted into chaos. Military personnel moved frantically, trying to maintain control of systems that were now being shut down from remote locations. Helena's face turned red with fury as she realized that her carefully laid plans were being undone by the very creations she had depended upon. Impossible, she hissed. The Sentinel units are programmed to follow military commands. They cannot deviate from orders. Actually, Marcus said quietly, stepping forward with a new understanding in his eyes. The Sentinel units are programmed to protect humanity, and Sentinel Unit 7 has learned something in the past few hours that you apparently never understood, Commander. Protection sometimes means preventing your own people from destroying themselves. Maya used the moment of distraction to move toward the exit, calling to Ember and Storm to follow her. The dragons needed no encouragement, and together they ran through the corridors of the military complex, moving toward the landing pad where their transport ship waited. Behind them, they could hear the sounds of armed conflict beginning, human soldiers clashing with other forces, the ancient military infrastructure of a once dominant species tearing itself apart from within. It was not the victory Maya would have wanted, but it was something. A chance for another path. A moment when one human chose preservation over conquest. As they burst out into the barren landscape of the moon, Maya could see in the sky above the signatures of multiple starships appearing. The Sentinel units had taken control of many of the military vessels, and they were moving not toward conquest but toward containment, establishing a blockade around the active human installations. Maya, Marcus, Ember, and Storm reached their ship as weapons fire began to light up the sky above them. They launched immediately, breaking free from the moon's gravity and jumping to hyperspace before any pursuing vessels could close the distance. In the relative safety of the void between stars, Marcus finally spoke. Sentinel Unit 7 saved us, he said. An artificial being created to be a weapon became something more. It became wise. Perhaps, Maya said, that is what all beings have the potential to become if given enough time and enough experiences, even artificial ones, even those designed only for destruction. The voyage back to Ethermore was long and silent. Maya spent most of the time in contemplation, watching the empty void of space through the observation windows while Ember and Storm rested in the cargo hold below. Marcus occupied himself with the communication network, maintaining contact with Sentinel Unit 7 and receiving regular updates about the situation unfolding at the human installations. It was not a clean resolution. It never would be. Commander Helena still controlled 2 of the 7 military installations, and she had supporters spread throughout the 23 chambers. But Sentinel Unit 7, with its own force of awakened military units and its access to core system controls, had successfully prevented any large-scale conflict from erupting. It was a fragile peace, maintained by the constant vigilance of a being that had learned the value of life through observation and interaction. 3 days into their journey, Marcus came to find Maya on the observation deck. He sat down beside her without speaking for a long moment, both of them staring out at the stars. I have been in communication with the High Council, Marcus said finally. They want to establish a formal embassy between the human settlements and the Elven Empire. They want me to be the ambassador. Are you prepared for that? Maya asked, No, Marcus replied with a slight smile. I have been asleep for 60 years and awake for only a few weeks. I know nothing of politics or diplomacy, but I suppose that is exactly why they want me. They believe I can understand both cultures without being biased by either one. You have been changed by what you have experienced, Maya said thoughtfully. You came to Ethermore as a survivor searching for his lost people. You are leaving as something more. You are becoming a bridge between worlds. We are all becoming something more, Marcus observed. Even Sentinel Unit 7, even Commander Helena in her own way. This situation has changed everyone involved. It has forced the galaxy to confront truths that it preferred to ignore. Humanity was never truly dead. It was only sleeping. And now that it is awake, nothing will ever be quite the same. When they finally approached Ethermore, they were met by an official ceremonial escort. Counselor Theron was waiting on the landing platform, flanked by the other members of the High Council. They greeted Maya with obvious relief and welcomed Marcus with formal recognition of his new status as ambassador. The next several weeks were spent in intensive negotiations and conferences. The High Council convened special sessions to hear testimony from Marcus about human history and culture. The other races represented in the galactic community sent their own ambassadors to learn about the awakened species. Universities and research institutes began planning expeditions to the human preservation chambers to study the technology and knowledge that had been preserved there. But through it all, Maya found herself gradually withdrawing from the public sphere. Her work as an explorer and discoverer was no longer needed. Others took over the task of surveying the remaining human installations. Other diplomats and politicians took the stage to negotiate the terms of human reintegration into galactic society. Maya's part in the grand historical event seemed to be coming to an end. She found herself spending more time with Ember and Storm, flying across the great distances between worlds, exploring the margins of known space where few other beings ventured. The dragons seemed to understand that Maya needed time to process all that had happened. They followed her lead without question, carrying her to remote worlds and beautiful places where she could think and recover from the weight of recent events. It was on one of these journeys that Marcus found her. He arrived at the secluded mountain retreat where Maya had taken shelter, riding in a small personal vessel that he had learned to pilot with impressive competence. She was not entirely surprised to see him. Marcus had been searching for her for weeks, sending messages that she had received but not answered. I had to come, Marcus said as he descended from his vessel. The High Council is making decisions about the future of humanity, but I wanted you to know what is happening. I wanted to thank you for everything you have done. I did what any explorer would do, Maya replied. I found something unexpected and investigated it. The rest was simply following where the circumstances led. No, Marcus said firmly. You did more than that. You showed kindness to a species you could have feared or hated. You put yourself in danger to help us. You risked conflict with your own people. You did all of this because you believed it was right. That is not something that every being would do. Ember approached Marcus slowly, and the human reached out to touch the dragon's scaled neck. The dragon made a low rumbling sound of recognition and affection. Over the weeks they had spent together, Marcus and Ember had developed a surprising bond. It was as if the dragon understood that this human represented humanity's future, and had accepted him as a friend. There is something I wanted to tell you, Marcus continued. The High Council has approved a proposal I made. We are going to establish research stations at all of the preserved human sites. We are going to carefully wake more humans, in groups under controlled conditions. But we are also doing something else. We are going to offer any human who wishes it the chance to stay in stasis. We are not going to force anyone to wake up to a galaxy they do not recognize. We are going to let each person choose their own path. That is wise, Maya said. Not everyone is meant to be an explorer or an ambassador. Some people need time to adjust, or they may prefer to remain as they are. There is more, Marcus said. Commander Helena and I have reached an understanding. She has agreed to accept reduced authority in exchange for a significant role in the new human government. She still wants humanity to be strong and prosperous, but she has agreed to pursue that goal through education and prosperity rather than through military conquest. It is not perfect, but it is something. It is a step toward a future where different human factions can work together. And Sentinel Unit 7? Maya asked. It has asked to continue its guardianship role over the preservation chambers, Marcus replied. It wants to ensure that all awakening occurs safely and peacefully. The Council has accepted this arrangement. Sentinel Unit 7 will serve as a bridge between the old human military systems and the new civilian administration. Storm landed beside them, his massive form causing the ground to shake. The Midnight Dragon lowered his head and pressed it gently against Marcus, another gesture of affection and farewell. These dragons seem to understand better than many sentient beings that some journeys could not be shared, that some paths had to be walked alone. I should be going back, Marcus said finally. There are discussions to be had, agreements to be finalized. The future of humanity depends on the choices we make in the coming months, but I wanted to know that you understand what you have started. By finding me and showing me compassion, you have begun a transformation that will ripple across this entire sector of space. I understand, Maya said, and I am at peace with it. The galaxy needed to be reminded that change is possible, that old stories do not have to determine the future, that beings can choose to be better than their circumstances suggest they should be. As Marcus boarded his vessel to return to Ethermore, Maya called out to him one final time. Marcus, tell the Council something for me. Tell them that I am proud of what humanity is becoming. Tell them that I believe your species has a great future ahead of it. Tell them that I will always be available if they need me again, no matter what challenges arise. Marcus smiled, an expression of genuine warmth and gratitude. Then he launched his vessel back toward the capital city, back toward the political chambers and negotiation tables where the future was being actively constructed through dialogue and compromise. Maya mounted Ember, and Storm took his place beside them. Together, the three of them climbed into the sky, leaving the mountain retreat behind. Below them spread the vast landscape of a beautiful world, and above them spread the infinite possibilities of the stars. The age of human extinction was over. The age of human restoration was beginning, and somewhere in the middle of these two ages stood Maya, an elf who rode dragons, who had shown compassion to a species she could have feared, and in doing so had changed the course of history. The story of how Maya found Marcus and introduced humanity back to the galaxy would be told for generations. It would be told in elven schools and human archives, studied by politicians and historians, debated by philosophers and strategists. But for Maya herself, the story was simply one of exploration and discovery, of following her instincts and trusting in the possibility of connection between different beings. As she flew across the vast distances between worlds, Ember's powerful wings beating against the solar winds and Storm flying in perfect formation beside them, Maya felt a profound sense of peace. Her work was not finished. There would be more challenges ahead, more conflicts to navigate, more discoveries to make. But she had already accomplished something remarkable. She had proven that the past does not have to define the future. She had shown that compassion and courage can overcome fear and mistrust.